Hello there. Hello, we're live. Good evening and welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. My name is John Preposterous Ryan and it's June the 15th into June the 16th. A very happy Bloom's Day tomorrow for everybody. We're going to talk about Grenfell Tower and we're going to talk about Leo and the DUP and whatnot. But first we're going to go to Olga, who's going to go through tomorrow morning's newspaper covers.
Yeah.
Thanks, Olga.
No worries. Okay.
Oh, sorry. Can I just? Our panel consists of Neil Curran, Johnny Keenan, and Olga Crum. Sorry, Olga.
Oh, okay. I'll just get. Sorry, that's just my fault now. I'll just go get them again. Sorry, I should have closed that down. Just to say that the papers are mainly about, obviously, the UK papers are mainly about Grenfell Tower, and then a lot of the Irish papers are about Leo Varadkar, yeah, and the appointment of Mario Whelan. So, just 2 seconds. Just 6 seconds.
That's the appointment of Maura Whelan as on the appeal court. She had been Attorney General, and it's been found out that she oversaw her appointment. She was part of the committee that sort of reviewed her appointment. But
exactly. So, so there you go. So, there's the Times Ireland edition, and like I said, so Varadkar silent over nomination of top judge. So, as we were saying, so this is the story about former Attorney General Maura Whelan. She's been appointed to the Court of Appeal, and this story by Niamh Lyons and Ellen Coyne are saying that Leo Varadkar has avoided questions on the controversial appointment. So just if people aren't aware, so this was an appointment that was one of Enda Kenny's last of his administration, and it's just basically not known how it happened. And most ministers weren't aware before the final cabinet meeting on Tuesday when it did happen. And as we'll see in the other papers, and we'll come back to in a second, it turns out that she was actually at that cabinet meeting and didn't recuse herself. So anyway, we'll talk about that more in a minute. But the top story there, DUP pact is playing fast and loose with peace, Adams warns. That's another piece by Ellen Coyne, and so basically follows Theresa May meeting the 5 main Northern Ireland parties yesterday. And it just leads off with Jerry Adams has warned Theresa May that her possible deal with the DUP is playing fast and loose with her government's commitment in the Good Friday Agreement to be impartial. He accused her of turning a blind eye to the disruptive actions of the DUP at Stormont as the British Prime Minister signalled she was confident of getting the Queen's speech through the Commons whether or not a deal was reached by next week. So she has set a 5-day deadline to complete talks over a confidence and supply deal. And also the UK government has warned that direct rule could be reimposed if no agreement is reached before June 29th. It's just north. There's a story there on the side. Cladding in Tower Lock was ruled unsafe by the US. So essentially, it's emerged basically that the United States banned the type of cladding that was placed on that 24-story block there last May. Again, we'll talk about more of this in a minute. But it seems to be that at the moment, anyway, people are saying that the reason for the fire, the reason that it went up so quickly and everything was because of this cladding that was put on the building last May when it went through this upgrade. So, and Scotland Yard has begun a criminal inquiry while some MPs have called for corporate manslaughter charges to be brought. 17 people have been confirmed dead, by the way, but that number is expected to rise.
And the cladding, I gather, was simply residents in a sort of luxury block. The luxury blocks are the private homes or whatever nearby thought it was an eyesore. So the cladding was not even for the residents, it was simply for an aesthetic, for the view of people who lived in the posher parts. Sorry, I'll go.
Oh gosh, okay. Then just going down to the Irish Times there. Sorry. May orders Tower fire inquiry's demand for answers grow. So, like we were just saying earlier, so yeah, she's ordered for a public inquiry. Theresa May, she visited the scene yesterday, or today rather, and so did Labour's Jeremy Corbyn. So, we're just going to see more and more of this, I think.
Oliver, could you just go to the top there just briefly? At the top of the Times, yeah. What is that? Waterford.
Oh, sorry, Waterford are a nice team. You'd love your sister to be going out with one of them.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe Freddie Keane could suggest a Waterford team.
Excuse me, I don't know.
Very strange. Do I feel that's a strange thing to be saying? Or odd, kind of. No, okay, it's just me.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay.
Ministers uneasy at how Whelan was nominated. So again, this is more of what we're saying. And basically, this is the story by Pat Leahy, and it's based. The lead anyway it's coming off on an interview that the Communications Minister Dennis Lofton did with Shannon Side Northern Sound, and he's basically saying that he's going to raise the matter and ask the manner in which Moira Whelan was nominated at the next week's cabinet meeting next Tuesday. So there's that. And also in that same report, it's saying that sources close to former Minister for Justice Frances Fitzgerald declined to comment any further. However, the Irish Times understands Ms Fitzgerald brought the proposal to the cabinet. And apparently Leo Varadkar's spokesman said that Leo Varadkar was aware of the proposal to appoint the Attorney General, but declined to say when Mr Varadkar was informed. So there's that. The story at the bottom there, call for legal clarity on polygamous families. So that's by Colin Keane, a legal affairs correspondent. It's in relation to so comments that a Supreme Court judge, Mr. Justice Frank Clark, made. So urgent attention should be given to introducing legislation to clarify what rights and obligations apply to polygamous families living in Ireland. The comment by Mr. Justice Frank Clark was made in a ruling where the court found that the first marriage of a Muslim man who had married 2 women in Lebanon, as is allowed there, was a valid marriage in Irish law. The second marriage, the court ruled, could not be recognised here, but that did not compel the state to deny all legal effect of polygamous marriages in all contexts. So this man has 2 wives and a number of children, and they all live in Ireland.
So is there a legal loophole that we could now start marrying loads of people? Or
we could, maybe.
We have a brief window before they.
Are you proposing, John?
Sure, like, you know.
Certainly.
Good for the wedding industry, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No. And then in the business pages there, just at the bottom, repossessions. The state's competition watchdog has called for a more effective home repossessions regime under a series of housing recommendations. Just to point that one out. And the Examiner, again, it's leading with the Attorney General story. This is by Elaine Loughlin and Daniel McConnell. And essentially, they are focusing on the fact, I mentioned this earlier, that essentially she didn't recuse herself from the cabinet meeting where they were discussing her appointment. So basically this job became available, or sorry, the job on it became vacant in March, but the Judicial Appointments Advisory Board was not able to name any candidates for approval. However, sitting judges do not go through the board and instead generally write directly to the Attorney General if they want to seek a promotion. And just to say, like, I think it was in today's Irish Times, Mary Minahan reported that 3 such judges did apparently make their desire known that they wanted that job. So, you know.
Who wanted the job?
So three specific judges apparently did make it known that they wanted the job. So at least 3 High Court judges wrote to Moira Whelan indicating that they would like to be appointed to that position.
Right.
So,
Right.
So anyway, and then just
we sort of forget that Mary Whelan was regarded as a crony appointment herself.
At the beginning, yeah.
Sorry, just go on.
And just to say, there's an interesting quote in that story by Elaine Loughlin and Daniel McConnell. One political source hinted that the position in the Court of Appeal had been left open since March purely to give it to Miss Whelan. He said it was almost as if the Court of Appeal was held open for her as a safety net. So I'm sure there'll be loads more on this. Just there under the picture from some people graduating, whistleblowers HSC trying to cut out conclusions by Fiachra O'Connor. So essentially, if you remember the Grace case, and if you remember the HSE boss Tony O'Brien going before the Public Accounts Committee in March, I think it was, he basically ordered for Deloitte to do a report to look into claims that €600,000 worth of funding was cut from the agency which was looking after Grace. So essentially, whistleblowers, so the care workers who were looking after Grace were working for this particular agency. And once they blew the whistle, they're saying that €600,000 worth of funding was cut from them, or from the agency rather. And so Tony O'Brien ordered for a report to be carried out. But this story by Freya O'Connor is saying that based on a letter sent by these whistleblowers to the Public Accounts Committee, they're accusing the HSE of delaying the report because they're not happy with Deloitte's conclusions. So they're quoted as saying, the whistleblowers, that is, it is clear that when the HSE agreed to an independent audit to answer the questions posed by the committee pack, they mistakenly thought it would produce a favourable report in line with their own farcical internal audit in 2014. Now they don't like the answer, they are clearly trying to cover it up. There's that. Then there's more about Grenfell. There's a story in the bottom there by Stephen Rogers about 24 people who were arrested across Kilkenny. Johnny, do you know anything about that? 24 people in coordinated guard raids on 13 locations. So, Gardaí arrested 24 people for crimes ranging from theft to assault in a raid in Kilkenny yesterday. It was the second operation in the space of a week. So 13 locations were searched as part of the investigations into recent burglaries and robberies, as well as the sale and supply of drugs. Then, just moving down, transport to be more accessible for disabled. So this is a story by Joyce Fagan. It's basically Ian Rodairn and two government ministers are working together to improve access to public transport for people who have physical disabilities. It's coming ahead of the Minister of State for Disabilities, Finian McGrath, launching his National Inclusion Disability Strategy in 2 weeks' time, and transport access is supposed to be a major part of that. So that's what that's based on. And the breakout picture story there is also by Joyce Fagan, A Punch from a Stranger Changed My Life Forever. It's about a man called Brian Hogan, who, when he was 32 in 2009, living in London, I think he said, in the UK anyway, he was punched and just on the way back to a party, and he suffered a brain injury. And basically the piece is just about how he's living with that injury now. And the piece on the side, media welcomes ruling on the Leach case. So this is by Noel Baker. So if you remember, in 2004, the Evening Herald ran these articles. The Evening Herald is owned by Independent News and Media, but the Evening Herald ran these articles about Monica Leach. She was a public relations consultant, and they claimed that she got particular public contracts because she was having an affair with the then Environment Minister, Martin Cullen. She was awarded 1.8 million by a High Court in 2009. But it was later cut down to 1.2 million by the Supreme Court. But essentially, INM, Independent News and Media, went to the European Court of Human Rights to appeal it, and they've upheld it. I'm not sure what happens now, but I think they've got a certain number of weeks, and then we'll see. But anyway, News Brands Ireland, National Union for Journalists, they're all welcoming the ruling. So
So, I mean, it was an incredibly high amount, a large payout, wasn't it, for
massive, absolutely massive, yeah.
But anyway.
Absolutely. Sorry, and then so the British papers, it's all about the tragedy in London. Some victims of terrible ways may never be identified. It's a story. There's just very, very sad stories.
The story of the Express that it said that the fatalities may reach 100.
If not more, yeah.
If not more.
Yeah, because I think 600 people lived in it.
Yeah.
But so.
And they say that a lot more may have lived there, sort of immigrants, I guess, undocumented perhaps. I'm not too sure. So finding out who they are is a problem. Can I just very briefly, actually, on the Grenfell, I want to go to want to go to Johnny on this actually because. Oh, sorry. Did you want to get you go through the you finish that? Those all good, Coach.
No, that's good. They're gone. Sorry, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to Johnny first because last week we were doing the show and Corbyn, the exit polls had suggested, that he might do better than he did, and he certainly did a lot better than anybody expected. But I see in the Grenfell Tower, and I'm not making political capital, but it's so obvious that that this is a Tory council. It seems to be indicative or representative of a kind of, we have it here with Priory Hall as well, but we have a sort of the policies anyway that Corbyn Corbyn could probably got a large groundswell of support. Are those kind of people, the people who are stuck in those towers? Sorry, John.
Yeah. Sorry, John, the connection isn't great. I was just saying to you that we don't have any Wi-Fi down here in Kilkenny. The Garda raids were about there all day, I don't know.
Sorry, Johnny, they were just over for a rakeries and theft, burglaries, drug. Okay. Yeah.
Nothing for any. No one stole Wi-Fi or anything like that. No.
Possibly.
Okay. Right.
Having a joint on Telly apparently was one of the terms. They couldn't find that.
John, we're over that. We're over. Build the bridge to get over it, man. No, getting back to the serious point that you were making. Well, let's not forget, that I did call it last week as well. That it was a bad night to be going. Last Wednesday, I said, or last Thursday, sorry. Britain was going to bed with Tories as their leaders, and they were going to wake up with Tories and DUP. Yeah. So it's gone from crazy to really bad. Yeah. And just on your point, yeah, that's exactly what Corbyn is about. He's bringing the disenfranchised, and fair play. 73% of the youth got out and voted, and that's what basically, I wouldn't say get them across the line, but that whatever government Theresa May gets is going to be very unstable, and it'll probably be another election this side of Christmas. Yeah. So when you look at it's amazing that Olga said in the papers there that that's that part of London where that fire was. It's probably the richest part of London, and right in the middle of it, you probably got the poorest tenement, which now apparently is an eyesore for people in the expensive apartments and a headache for the council. But when you look at the actual building, how many of those buildings are around London alone and the rest of Britain? Yeah. There were obviously no real construction in the idea of when they were being built, because they were for disadvantaged people and welfare people, and that once again shows the Tories of the 80s. They haven't changed, or the 70s or 60s, whenever they were in. I can't imagine that they were built by Labour governments.
Yeah, Neil.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I just want to go to Neil briefly. That I don't want to bring up the Corbyn and the Grenfell Tower thing, but the people who are represented on television today and in the interviews, in the coverage, they represent a Britain that I don't think Theresa May and the Tories have any interest in or are bringing along with them. Neil?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about class, John. I mean, that's all in the realms of possibility. I don't know if that's the unfortunately the death count from the tragedy is increasing, so the focus should be on that. But I guess my thoughts this week around that, where it was, we've seen in Ireland some of the issues with Priory Hall and the likes, and more recently it's kind of gone quiet. But I know from people who live there, the Beacon South Quarter and some of the issues that have come up with water and fire out there. So we haven't had a tragedy here, fortunately, but it begs the question about what would happen. I mean, there's a lot of there
was a rapper, Alaka, today said these people died because they were poor.
Yeah, I'd seen that. I don't know. That's kind of it's the Shepherd's Bush area of London, as Johnny said. It's a very well off part of London, and I'd heard someone else say about this area, this part of this building being an eyesore for locals. But yeah, you know, every morning you wake up and there's an update on the fatalities. So it's pretty tragic. London has had to deal with a lot in recent times, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. You're going to sit. Okay, Johnny.
There was a real nice story on it, though. Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean it to be flippant about it, but there was a Muslim lady, I suppose. She was wearing the hijab, so I can presume she was Arab Muslim. So she was talking, I think it was RTA saying that a woman dropped her baby 6 floors.
Yeah.
And a fella rushed through and caught the baby. So, you know, in just what I'm looking for, the human story there amidst all the chaos.
Yeah.
You know, that was a very brave thing to do. And then when you see all the provisions being brought through, you know.
Well, it's you know.
You know, what I'm saying, John, the Muslim community really rallied around Manchester and rallied around London. Now, I can only say in relation to the pictures that I've seen, which wasn't that much, I have to say. I didn't. The ones that I've seen, given the provisions, the water and such, were all Muslims and black people.
Well,
that's just the little bit of footage I did see. Obviously, the ambulances and all that were. But, you know, we're talking about communities coming together here, like, you know. So,
well, and if there's anything from this, there is that. I mean, we've always said it, like on the site and stuff. If there's any trouble, if anybody's in any trouble, there's such a huge, you know.
You know.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to bring the political into it, but I do see that a bit like Hurricane Katrina and the response to it had a kind of a psychic effect on the Americans. You know, that probably helped Obama 6-7 years later. You know, or sorry, 3 or 4 years later. And I think this Grenfell Tower is it's a very powerful image, I think, for a new political direction in Britain, certainly. Is that a bit?
Yeah, it's symbolic,
Yeah.
isn't it? Actually,
it looks like an image you'd see from, you know, from a war zone.
Yeah. Just go back.
How did it fire? How did it start?
Well, somebody said a fridge exploded.
But apparently it just was. Apparently it was just that it just went up like a matchstick. Someone said because of that.
Yeah.
Well, the Grenfell.
8 floors in 11 minutes. Like, that's amazing.
There was an interview on Kildare FM with Shane Beattie today or was it yesterday? Today, and on Kildare FM, and he spoke to an architect from UCD, Orla Haberty, and she was explaining how years ago, where a concrete house was built or an apartment was built, there would be, like, if there was a fire, it would take an hour for the fire, like, to go from here to the next building or whatever, the next room or the next apartment. And that was the reason why people would have been told back in the day to stay in your house and close your door, stay in your apartment and close the door, because it would give the firefighters chance to get there, put out the fire, as opposed to everyone scrambling.
Yeah.
But she was kind of saying, and I think she was basing this from what she could see on television. But she said her understanding is that because of the cladding, that just kind of wiped that out, because it was just going out the windows and just, you know.
Oh, right, yeah.
You know, and also because there was just one. My understanding, from what I read, there was just one exit and entrance, right? There was just one stairwell. So, like, it's funny. I went to college in a place that had a building exactly like that, just straight up, and we used to have these. We used to have these fire drills all the time. In the middle of the night, the alarm would go off, and you'd have to leave. Like, there was no choice.
Yeah.
And you'd just be like, you know, allergic and everything. But it's kind of staggering to look at that building and go, gosh, there was no, because it doesn't seem like there were any fire, you know, guidelines or except just stay in your room.
Yeah, the gentleman who runs the Grenfell Action blog, which is social media, I guess, he warned about it in November. Like, he's very specific. He said it's going to be a big fire and it's going to be in one of the buildings and it's going to, you know, probably kill people. And before the fire happened, he was being London, the Kensington Council were threatening to sue him for saying these things on his blog. So
Down.
probably going to drop that action anyway. Going back to the Attorney General, Olga, as I said, her appointment was considered kind of the Eamon Gilmore.
Labour Party, yeah.
Yeah, it was a crony. They'd been in college, and it was the Labour go away mafia thing or whatever. Now, I wouldn't comment on Mary Williams' experience. I mean, the Attorney General.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, but her performance on I think two things, particularly the fatal fetal abnormalities and the Morris McCabe.
The Fenley.
Yeah, well, actually, it was. I mean, the Morris McCabe wrote to Mary Whelan first in 2013, if you remember. And rather than deal with it, she sent it to Callanan. She sent it to the Garda Commission. Much to Morris's shock. And then the second thing will be the fatal fetal abnormalities, Claire Daly's bill, if you remember. And she said that she couldn't do it on constitutional grounds, but she wouldn't explain what the constitutional grounds were, and we never heard. And for a female Attorney General, it was very disappointing, I thought. Sorry, Olga.
Yeah, no, I think if I remember correctly, Legal Confidential wrote a piece in relation to that. The constitutional grounds, really excellent piece.
Yeah.
Gosh, I forgot about that with Morris McCabe. I forgot that she wrote to her first.
She just patted it away. Neil, what are your views?
Yeah, I mean, it's already been said, hasn't it?
Okay.
I mean, a lot of things like Richard Clinton and Regina Doherty have come out and said, look, she's an impeccable, she's great at her job, she's this, that, the other, but that's really irrelevant. It doesn't matter, she can. It's how it happened and why it happened. I think, but obviously.
Well, if she was at the meeting, it just shows the arrogance of the legal. Again, the arrogance of the legal profession. We've highlighted a few conflicts of interest over the years with senior legal people in Ireland. There seems to be no backlash or there's no way to punish them.
Yeah.
Sorry, Johnny.
Leo will sort that out, though. Republic of
well,
Change.
it's not jobs for the boys anymore. It's jobs for the boys and the women and the judges. And I don't know what you can say about a judge in this country anymore, but that's what was parting gifts. They have a habit of doing it. Thanks for looking after us. While it's just almost the way it is in this country. I'm not saying it's acceptable, but they've all done it in relation to looking after the judges. Who picks the judges?
Yeah, well, I mean, somebody said tonight that this is outrageously political, but they're all political. All the appointments are political.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only thing is just to change the system, really. There's no point. That's the system. That's the way it always has been. So we're either going to change the system or we're going to accept it. So.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, just get back on the fatal fetal abnormalities. Actually, the legal coffee drinker did decimate that her grounds that this was unconstitutional. She said there was certainly constitutional grounds that whereby a fatal fetal abnormality could occur. Sorry, Neil, you're laughing.
It's like you could freeze your body every year and wake up, and then we're still talking about the same thing and nothing has changed. We just have different leaders. It's just, when is it ever going to change, and when is somebody going to be accountable for all of this? My smile is not a happy smile.
What
Laughing through the pain, Neil. I hear you.
I mean, the last time, the analogy I use for the Attorney General is the Bible story of Mary being pregnant. A job is there for someone that they weren't running for, despite three people looking for her. You can't make this shit up. You really can't.
That's never
Republic of Change, huh?
Well, that's where Shane Ross is coming under so much criticism, right? Because he got his got his Garda station, reopened and set aside. So apparently he wasn't happy with. I mean, I'm only just going by what's been reported, but I think it was the Irish Times today were saying that he expressed his I don't know what the word was. Expressed his
dismay.
He wasn't happy with the decision that she was getting the role or she was getting appointed. However, he got his Garda station, and
Yeah.
So.
Like, really, would Step Aside not have a Garda station if Shane Ross was not? Is that really what we're
possibly? Like, I mean, there was apparently bunting was put up, and there was there was letters sent out that he sent his constituents from the free postal whatever service,
So okay, I mean, I can't think of a better example of precisely what he was campaigning against on the Sunday Independent for God knows how many years. I mean, it's like, all right, this is it. I'm in. He's only in about a year, I mean. And he's got his own Garda station. Sorry, Neil.
Is there a place called Step Aside? Seriously?
It's not too far. I know it's not too far from where I am. I quite appreciate the Garda station.
Love the connotations there, man.
It's a good name for a Garda station. Step Aside.
Step Aside. Shane Ross has got this started.
Nothing to see here. So the Mary Whelan, this is Leo Varadkar's, or rather it's Enda's. Who's getting the rank?
Enda's last appointment, yeah.
Okay. So Leo could not offer her the job then, I guess.
Yeah, because I don't think it's been formally. I don't think the president has signed off on it or whatever. I don't think it's formally been completed.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Well,
is there anything he refused to sign off on, actually, Olga? The president?
I don't think he can.
Yeah.
There was, the way he can send it out to the council. Isn't that the way it works? He can send it out to the council and they can come back. And he did that with the direct provision. Remember we were talking about this before?
Yeah.
The last act, the Refugee Act.
Yeah.
They didn't want it, but he signed it anyway. Sorry.
Can we give credit where it's due that that Varadkar has announced that there will be a referendum on the Eighth Amendment sometime next year. As somebody said, it was 3 hours into his Taoiseachship. So it's not. I mean, it's very good. I mean, in fairness, Johnny.
Did he give a date?
No.
Did he give a date, John?
No.
He's giving it to Simon.
Sometime in 2018.
Has he not given it to Simon to look after?
Right, we give him credit for that, but let's just give him that 5 seconds of credit before I go back into what exactly he started. Sorry, Neil.
No, I thought he pawned that off on Simon Coveney to look after.
No, Simon Harris.
Oh, Simon Harris.
Yeah, well, let's go back into his start, right? So he did his reshuffle. The two big things that he did in that reshuffle was now let's look at Coveney in relation to what his campaign was to become the new leader and the new Taoiseach, new leader of Fine Gael and the new Taoiseach of the country. What he was going to do for the home and the housing crisis, he was going to start it. So he's not now Minister for Housing, he's Minister for Foreign Affairs. So you've got Owen Murphy in there for housing, and he can go for 6 months. Oh, I'm only new to the job, I don't know what's going on. This is more kicking the can down the road, you see. So, and what's the other one? Who else is under fire? Fitzgerald. She's gone from the Department of Justice to the Department of, I don't know, cushy numbers, whichever. So, instead of getting rid of the two of them, well, you can't get rid of Coveney, I suppose. But it's already started. And the insult that he did with direct provision, the son of an immigrant, and I just don't get it. Like,
oh, you mean
he reckons that yes, an extra €6 for the kids of asylum seekers,
yeah,
and an extra €2 for the asylum seekers. So it brings both the children and the euros to €21.50, and the kids went from €15 to €21.50. So how he thinks, this is how far removed from society Leo Varadkar is, that he thinks €2 is going to make a blind bit of difference to someone who's on €19 a week. way it was put in the press release was, oh, there's 300,000 going, and they're getting extra shoes, and that's going to cost $500,000 extra shoes. Where the fuck are we? Like Syria or something? If you put a shout out for shoes for 3,000 people, you'd have Nike or Adidas coming and wanting to get the advertising and the good brand association. I don't mean good brand association. You know, the goodwill. You know, it's like things seem to be very complicated up in Leinster House, but when you break it down to the logic, simplicity, it's not complicated at all. So Leo Varadkar has started on the exact same foot that I thought he would. And actually, I called it. So until he does something good, I'm calling him Varuka.
Okay.
Because he's a wart on the soul of Irish society with the way he was and the way he is now. So until he earns his name, he's Varuka to me.
I'm not sure what a Varuka is. Those kids in the swimming pool when they wore the white.
Yeah, well, it's a wart either way.
But they were to protect them from the Varuka, right? Those little white runners, you know,
White top.
Yeah, I had them actually. Used to use them in gym as well, or for gymnastics.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
I like ballet.
I wonder where the speaking time pact will go.
Well, I mean, we've seen fantastic archery in the Dáil in the last 5-6 years. I think I won't say all from independence, but mainly from independence. And
yeah, absolutely. Well, Rue Coppinger said it there last night on primetime. I think it was Laura, or I forget her name now, Mayo. Is she TD or councillor? But she just said, yeah, basically that you've got too much time, said to Rue Coppinger, and says, well, at least we use ours. Words to that effect. They seem to, you know, Fianna Fáil don't seem to use much of their time. Well, not all of it anyway, but all the independents definitely use their time. And like Rue Coppinger was brilliant all week in relation to just nailing Kenny before he left and just, you know, welcoming Varadkar of Varuka, sorry, with a baptism of fire. Like, she's brilliant. She's just spot on every time. Herself, Claire Daly, Joan Collins, Catherine Conley. You know, these women are just class. They can just take them out easy with so much coolness as well and so much information. It's brilliant to see so much talented people that can actually hit home a point with some great facts. Yeah, and you see them in the Public Accounts Committee as well. They're really doing a great job, I have to say.
I want to include Catherine Murphy in that. She's not independent, but she's up down. I thought, actually, to be fair, I thought Roisin Shortall was a bit weak this week in terms of saying goodbye to Enda. I mean, it really hasn't been a great few years here, you know, with a lot of Irish people. Neil, I mean, we've spoken about this before. Who's getting recovery at the moment? I mean, are you?
No. I mean, the country's still a shambles. I mean, today in the papers they were talking about the rent. The rents are starting to stabilise, they're saying, in Dublin. And that might be the first sign, you know, it's spun as a positive story. That might be the first sign that measures taken by the government are working, but we still have this colossal high rent. I don't know. I think we've a long way to go. We've you know, between Brexit and Trump, if Trump does see through his term, we've got huge obstacles ahead of us. So, you know, the party's over for Leo in many ways. You know, there's too much at stake for the country. I think we're on the verge of a disaster, really, if we don't take strong action to protect the economy. In terms of recovery, you know, I'm kind of fortunate because I was fortunate during the town times that I held on to my job, so I was lucky like that. But you know, I have friends who really had it hard and really suffered, like many people in the country. So it's always a two-class system. That's what it feels like in the country.
And it feels that the Fine Gael have kind of accepted that they'll never win over these people. You know, they'll never win over people on welfare, for instance. I mean, their thinking is almost that these people will never come off welfare. You know, never come off the dole and get a job. And then
you could see that with Leo's kind of campaign against welfare fraud, and then, you know, the facts came out that, well, it doesn't tally with the reality. You know, that's always been the ploy of the government whenever issues come up in the public sector was always pitting people against people. So when there's strikes in the public sector, and as much as it's an inconvenience to us all, there's this thing of comparing it with the private sector. It's almost like, you know, the government is dropping two sticks into an arena between public and private people, and let the anger of the private sector worker, you know, put pressure on the public sector worker who has a grievance. And I say that now where, you know, a massive inconvenience when the Lewis or the buses are on strike. But that's always seems to be the ploy of, I suppose, not just the Irish government, other governments as well. And it's you know, it's not good. It's not good business.
I think it's not working here. I mean, the Segalian thing is not really working for them. It didn't work with the Lewis people. It certainly didn't work with Irish Water. You know, they kept on going back to kind of, but it was firmly rejected. I think there's, sorry, I don't want to monopolize that, Johnny. What do you think?
No. Just you're dead right, John. Like it's a moment of clarity. It's an awakening, an epiphany, whatever you want to call it. Like, and a direct effect of what happened in Britain last week. Like Corbyn, like he was never going to get as many seats as far as the bought media, the mainstream media were concerned, because when Corbyn gets in, like, and he will get in, because this is momentum now. And they know that he's going to win. He's going to change the face of what Britain is. Yeah. And he's going to take the money back and create jobs, and the economy will be going again. But it'll be by the people themselves. It won't be by the corporates. Now the corporates already own Ireland, so we have to take this back. And the only thing we can do is just use the same example. And it's nothing to do with socialism against capitalism. It's about people having a bit of basic human rights, basic civil rights. Why everyone pays tax. You know, we all move together. We're not like Britain. There is a class thing there. There's always been a class thing in Britain. 3 classes, in fact. And we can say that there's a middle class in Ireland. Okay, right. So I don't get it. Anyone who gets up out of bed and works, and I made this point already, or gets up at night and works, I don't have to go up at 7 o'clock in the morning for Leo. They're all trying to get the simple things in life, and whoever can work that little bit harder deserves that little bit more. But the basic things, everyone's entitled to in this country. And if we just look after this country, don't take the lead from America, don't take the lead from Britain. Iceland's a pure example of it. It's a different economy, different industries, but they take their lead from themselves, and they're very, very much independent. We go on about this being a republic. We're no more of a republic now than you know. That's why I'm so excited about Corbyn, Labour, that move to the left, if you like, towards socialism, and let's not doubt it. Like Ken Loach, the great socialist, the great filmmaker. That film, I, Daniel Blake, was you can never underestimate the power of art in relation to how people feel, and that was a big thing. That was a big film that I didn't hear anything advertised in the mainstream. Again, BBC never did an interview with Ken Loach. You know, all the interviews I seen were online. I think he might have done something with John and Ross. I'm not sure there, but like what I'm saying is that there is so much there in relation to a new way of living, and it's all going on around us now. I'm glad to say that on Vincent Brown tonight, you got the likes of Rory Ahern and another lady, I forget the name of her, you know, who are very strong voices online, and now they've kind of come into the mainstream. And people need to see these young people that are articulate and are informed and have fresh, strong ideas about how we can move forward. All of us. So, you know, and this is a knock-on effect, as I say, from Labour, because at the end of it, especially the elder generation, we have to still take our lead from the likes of Britain and America, because we can't seem to make up our own mind. But if something that strong is happening in Britain right now, it's definitely going to have a positive effect in relation to when our election is hopefully this side as well. Imagine the British election and an Irish election this side of Christmas.
I disagree. I don't think it'll have any effect here, Johnny. As much as I like what you're saying, I don't think to the regular Joe who's not as clued into politics as others are, I don't think it's going to make any difference, unfortunately.
Well, no, I have to say, they're like, you know, I don't think young people were too clued into politics, but they were forced to because they said, okay,
Oh,
what's happening
in
here?
the UK,
So,
yeah.
yeah, no, but sure, the thing is the same thing, Neil. Young people here, in my experience, and I like to talk to young people about politics because it's very important that young people vote, because as far as I'm concerned, the old people will always vote for the same, what they did vote for. They're scared of change, whereas young people need change. And the whole thing is, if they understand it, and going back to Dara quickly, she was very adamant that everyone should be going to the Garda station. She went to the Garda station to get
Have we lost Johnny?
The man has taken him off the air.
God, I didn't know. I didn't do that. No, I didn't. I didn't hand apart. Johnny, are you there?
They've switched off his internet.
Well, quickly.
He was,
sorry, I'll go.
I think just to finish what he was saying, I think he was saying that Dara went to the Garda station because she wanted to pick up several application forms in order for people to vote.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was saying.
Yeah, well, I think I think probably what Johnny was maybe saying, or what you're saying, Neil, is that during the austerity years, the exact age group that voted for Corbyn and that kind of mindset as well have left Ireland. Basically, like there's a raft of that age group that we just don't have.
But we don't have a Jeremy Corbyn type symbol of hope or change. I know Leo's got that slogan, but there isn't really anyone that, what's the alternative in Ireland? It's all, as I said last week, it's all cyclical. Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil are essentially the same. And every time that those parties run into trouble, the ratings for Sinn Féin go up, and that seems to be the trend with it. So, we don't really have that figurehead.
Well, we don't have the cult of the personality in terms of and I think that's a good thing, because the Messiah is not the Messiah.
No, of course, yeah.
And what I would think, though, if you've got some fantastic, you've got people like, say, Claire Daly, Catherine Murphy, Catherine Connolly, Bree Smith, and I'm trying to think of those more. Someone Fianna Fáil before, but there are enough outside of the two main parties.
But like the independent, like if you look at the independents, like I was a great fan of Stephen Donnelly, for example, but the independents on their own can't really make change. Yes, they can get into coalitions, but they're never going to be majority in a coalition. And in the end, like Donnelly jumped ship and joined Fianna Fáil. He's been very quiet. He's not as much in the public eye as from what I'm seeing from the day to day. That's happened. But that's the nature of our pothole politics in Ireland, and I think we'd need an overhaul before we. For as long as we're allowing people go into the Dáil with flat caps on, talking about how something is the work of Jesus when when something happens in the country, we're never going to get away from that pothole politics.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the people who come in and call people on welfare wasters, scroungers and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me what the Healy Rays say about climate change. It doesn't bother me in the slightest compared to what else is going on. Sorry, Olga.
No, I wonder what the Social Democrats will do. I wonder, by the time the next election comes around, perhaps they'll have more candidates, but and then you have to, and the next election, like Leo, you kind of have to ask yourself again as well, like what kind of mandate does he have? I know we talked about it last week briefly, but the way everyone was kind of saying 60-40, Simon won the leadership. But actually, if you take each vote independent, like as one single vote, which is how they're counted when you go to the ballot box or whatever, he won 35%,
Yeah.
of all those votes that were put down, So
yeah.
I'm not convinced that it's going to continue going Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil. I think
certainly the Fine Gael TDs that hover around Varadkar are, and I don't mean this I don't mean to cause any offence or be insulting to anyone, but they're so completely out of touch. It makes me kind of dizzy that there's such a sneer in their tone about people who are never going to vote for them in their view. They're so lacerating, but they're so out of touch with actually that genuine people aren't like that, you know. I mean, they just, because perhaps they have not met enough of them. Sorry, Neil.
No, I do agree with what you're saying. I do agree. It's the country's always been like that, though. We've never seen that change.
Well, that's okay. Okay. Neil, you wanted to talk about DUP and the
I know we were chatting a little bit before we went on air, but it's kind of been covered a bit in the paper there today, or in today's papers, or Friday's papers, and it's been mentioned a bit. I just, you know, when the whole coalition or the talks were being announced at DUP, my first question was about the Good Friday Agreement. But it's just been very interesting to see how, you know, John Major came out of the woodwork even to comment about concerns about the North. And you know how the shift of balance in power, and then there's kind of anecdotal stories now we're hearing about the DUP already looking for possibility of marching down the Garvaghey Road and all this kind of nonsense. But there this evening you're here to talk about you know, actually it was in the papers again about the direct rule from the UK, so we're on a very slippery slope. But it does show, it's gone very quiet around it, but there was that thing in the paper about the alleged secret meeting between the Tories and Labour about Brexit, which, if it is true, and I suspect it is a huge signal about, you know, what's to come, about the fear. But yeah,
Are you still living in the hope that they want Brexit proper?
Well, it's a bigger question than that, but it has. You know, we have to look after our own interests now. Ireland has to look after our own economic interests, and it has to be a hard Brexit. You know, not taking into account the trouble with the North, but economically, it has to be a hard Brexit as far as I'd be concerned.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, if they get the easy road out where they can have their cake and eat it, then they're potentially economically could be better off. Free to set their own.
And we can't have that.
Well, we're too slow to react. There'll be another 40 years before we react to that.
But it's a strange club to be in, though, isn't it, Neil? If we're treating them like our, you know, just because they don't want to be in the club anymore.
Well, no one else is going to look after us, though, are they?
It's a bit thuggish, like thug life. You know, we're kind of just, you know, let the people go. We're not. It's not a cult. You know.
Well, it's a project. It's not a cult. It's a project. I just, you know, it's not that long ago you know, when we didn't have the level of employment that we've had thanks to foreign direct investment and the like, and that's such a fragile ground. And if we were to lose things like that, you know,
Neil, sorry. Globalization has been stopped in its tracks, really, and when the American tech companies no longer have the tax benefits in Ireland, they leave. They will leave.
Exactly, yeah.
That's globalization too, isn't it? That they can move around wherever they want, but it's unlikely they'll come back, Neil. And like what we've done, relying on the FDI or whatever for 30, 40 years, is we've no indigenous, you know.
You're absolutely right. No, you're completely right. But we don't have any backup plan. You know, we don't have. You know, we've been. You know, the politicians have been talking about. Oh, it's not just the tax break is the reason why companies are investing here, and it's totally the tax break. So we don't have a plan B in the event that things go belly up. And you know, as more countries join Europe from Eastern Europe, where labor costs are cheaper, yes, definitely a lot of companies will up sticks and move over there. Because you know, there was a thing in one of the papers today, or about the multilingual nature of Europe, and Ireland and the UK. I think the average languages was 1.5, and then the further across Europe you go, the more languages. So you know, this kind of nonsense that, you know, we're an English-speaking country in Europe, and with the UK leaving, you know, but that makes no difference whatsoever. There's other countries that have have more languages, so I just think we're at great risk, and we need to protect our economy. And I just don't have the confidence in the government, and the politicians are there to do that.
Well, yeah, I think that I don't think there will be the EU as we know it in 5 years. Frankly, I can't see it's incompatible, as you say. Certainly for us, anyway. If the club needs to return to simple common market, no?
I don't know.
I mean, it hasn't been this homogenous. It hasn't been this homogenous force where everyone was playing by the same rules anyway.
Well, the problem is, like, now we're in with Germany. You know, I don't want to insult the Germans, but they're now sort of talking about getting a proper standing army. A reunified Germany with a standing army is not really the people I want to be in bed with, frankly. Too many bad memories. I mean, anyway.
Well, you know, since there hasn't been any conflicts in Europe since, you know, the EU project came about, so.
It's probably because Germany haven't had a standing army for 60 years.
Oh, shots fired, John. Shots fired.
Well, no, really. I mean, the reason they don't have a standing army is because of their history. I mean, there's a very good reason why, because they're extremely careless with power in as regards military power. Anyway, we could talk about another item. You know?
Yeah, that's another discussion.
It's okay. It's around that time. From tomorrow, from next week, we'll be presenting Broadsheet and Telly an hour earlier, 10:45. So you're very welcome to take advantage of the stretch. And we're going to have hopefully Johnny back. We lost him during the last item. So I just want to thank Johnny Keenan, wherever he is, Neil Curran, Olga Cronin, and we'll see you on the side tomorrow, and we'll hopefully see you on Broadsheet on the Telly next Thursday at 10:45. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.